Lucky, this is a great painting for March. Isn't he adorable? He looks really hard, but actually he's not. I'm going to break it down step by step, and I guarantee you're going to be able to paint him. He is just so cute. In the background, it looks hard. It's not. And the beard, trust me, if I can paint this, so can you. So this is on an intermediate beginner level. So you're going to have lots of fun, and what a great idea for a party too. Thank you so much for patronizing my business. I truly greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. When we start painting, make sure that you have a surface you don't mind getting paint on. I have covered my table here with some paper, and I have some tape and different little spots around the table to make sure when I got some holes that I didn't get any paint that went inside and destroyed my table. I have my canvas. Today I am using a stretched canvas that is stapled over a wood frame. This is my preferred type of canvas to use. You can use a flat one or you can use paper. It's pretty much everything I'm going to teach you. It's going to be all the same, so don't worry, don't stress out. I prefer these ones because they are already easy to hang. I don't have to buy a frame. I don't have to put extra pieces on it. It just, you know, the nail in the wall and you just hook it and there it goes. So I have already sketched that out onto my canvas. Now, if you need the printable, it is on the website where you found this painting, so don't worry, just go search it. Type in, if you don't see it right away, type in Lucky to the search bar and it'll bring it up. And then you'll see the image, the final image, and then you'll also see this outline that I did to make it easier for you to sketch. You could use a projector, you could use a light box. It really depends on what medium you're doing. So on this one, I just took my pencil, a mechanical pencil, and I just kind of freehand it and just figured it out and worked it out and took some time with it. So if you want to be brave, go ahead and do that. I strongly encourage individuality and uniqueness. So if you come up with a cooler design, go for it. I mean, really, just do you. The more you practice with sketching, the better you're going to get. So try to do that. If you don't want to, the printable's on the website. Type in Lucky. It's very easy to find. You're going to have to probably search because I keep these paintings up for a while and I change around the website quite a bit. So you might have to search for it, but it is there. I'm not going to take it down. That might help you to be able to sketch it out. Okay, so in the event of you don't want to sketch it out, don't worry, it's fine because I'm going to go through step by step. You're going to see what I'm doing as I do it. So you don't need to pre-sketch it out. I'm going to work on the background first, and then as I do the layers, I'll come up into the foreground. So if you're not going to sketch it out, here's what I want you to notice. He is a circle, and then he has a hat that's a rectangle, and there is a 4-leaf clover or a 3-leaf clover here that are basically hearts with a stem. So I want you to break this image down, and I want you to think circle, rectangle, 3-leaf clover, line, kind of curved line. Don't worry about being perfect. When you sketch it out, less is more. So don't be trying to put in a whole bunch of lines and everything. Just the basic idea of circle, rectangle, and 3-leaf clover. So make it, the simpler you make your drawing, your sketch at the beginning, the easier time you're going to have painting it later on when we come to that. I went a little bit more detailed with mine because I do have a few students who are little perfectionists, so I took a little bit extra time to be extra, but don't worry about it. You don't have to. We're going to build it up as it goes along. Okay, so now in a lot of my classes, I have talked about and shown many different ways to do the background. Today, I'm going to be showing you a technique. Now, you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to, but I think it would be fun to use the palette knife. I think it would be different. It would make the, I don't know, it gives it more of a little poppy modern art kind of look to it. I think it should be fun and a little bit different than what's out there already on Google. So it'd be so much cooler with the palette knife. Now, if you do not want to use the palette knife, I would recommend using this little guy here. basically a square brush, maybe one that is a little bit bigger than this. See how it's square and it's flat? Go ahead and paint on the outside and just paint around where the sky would be. Now I'm going to ask you to try not to paint in the circle or the rectangle or the 3-leaf clover. Like, try to have an idea of where those are gonna go. I mean, either draw it out or just keep it in your brain where the circle is and the rectangle, so that way you're not putting blue everywhere. Now, that'll make it easier for your colors to be bright and really pop. You can go ahead and paint the whole thing in the back, the whole entire canvas blue. That's a whole thing. You can do that and make it really cool and blended. You can use any color you want. So I'm going to use blue. You don't have to use blue. Use whatever color. I would recommend, though, not to use green or brown, because I'm going to make his beard brown, and typically leprechauns are wearing green, and the 3-leaf clover is kind of like a greenish yellow. So try to stay away from those colors, because what happens is if you use green for the background here and then his hat is green, then it's just going to blend too much. And I mean, it could be cool in the sense he would look kind of ghosted, and that he's kind of like, you know, he's hiding, like he's in the shrubbery or something. That could be really cool, but that's really advanced, and that's a lot of highlighting and shadowing. So if you're not feeling up to the challenge, make it a different color. Okay, so you can take your brush, the color you choose, and blend it. You can have some areas that are dark, like dark blue over here, light, and then dark blue, and then light, and then dark blue. You can do that. You can just take one color and paint around. But I'm going to show you this little method here with the palette knife. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to use a palette at this moment. I'm going to open up my paint, and I'm going to put little dots, and remember, keep in mind only to put color where your little guy is not. So sometimes, you know, sketching it out first and having a map can really be helpful. So I'm going to put color in different random places, not a whole lot, just a little bit. I got the blue. I'm working a little fast right now at this moment. I don't want it to dry. I'm going to go in with some white. Oh, I'm kind of towards the end of this guy here. And I'm just going to go a little bit of white, just a little bit here and there, not a whole lot. And what this is going to do is going to give me many different tones of blue and white. So I'm going to take my knife. Now, it doesn't really matter what shape you have, honestly, because you just manipulate it around and move it. And I'm going to scrape. Now, when I do my scrapings, I'm going to be very, like, not over scrapey. So just enough to spread the color around. The more that I scrape, the more that it's going to blend the colors together, and that's something I want, but I don't want too blended. I still want to have uniqueness of white areas, dark blue areas, and light blue areas. So go ahead, and if you get a little bit into your leprechaun, that's okay, don't worry, because we can fix that later. So don't stress out, and just, I'm kind of tapping and swiping. I am going a tad bit fast because I don't want my paint to dry while I'm in this mixing moment. Less is more, so don't be over blending here. Just let it happen. Whatever it looks like, that's what it looks like. Let it be. Don't try to be a perfectionist when it comes to this, because the more you're not a perfectionist, that's when these things start looking really cool and they really start coming together. And this technique I'm showing you, you can do on, like, pretty much, there's so many applications. Like if you were doing a building and you needed like some stucco work, this is amazing for stucco. I mean, not like actually, you know, I'm talking about like in a painting, not really stuccoing, but like a building. But in a painting, if you need that look, this is a good way to go about doing that look. So experiment with different colors. I usually, for the most part, when I do this for my style, I typically pick a color and then usually add white to mix together for different tones. But you know, use your imagination. Use a bright color and a cool color together. Could look really cool and contrasty. If you use like two cool colors and two cool colors together, it's gonna blend a lot and you're not gonna really see that sharp contrast. So try to, you know, experiment. Honestly, at the end of the day, I feel the best learning that I've done is when I've just taken the moment and said, okay, we're gonna do this, it's happening. And then that's when I come out with some of my best work, when I just let it happen. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I kind of need some more paint here over here. Now, usually, I'm sure you've seen my other classes, I am a big believer in painting the sides, and that's totally cool. But I think in this one, I'm gonna be all artistic-y, and I'm just not gonna paint the sides, and then it's gonna give it this look of like it's kind of finished, but not. And I really go for that look there. To make it easier on myself, I'm gonna go ahead and just turn this really quickly. If you need to turn your canvas, go ahead and do so. There's no problem with turning your canvas. I don't wanna have to reach in awkward positions, and then it really just shows in the work that I was uncomfortable when I was painting it, and I want to be in good mood and good spirits, and so when I turn things, it helps me, so I'm not stressing out. And don't stress out about this painting. I mean, I know that it happens to me all the time, but just try not to. I notice when I'm painting and I stress out on the painting and I'm being a perfectionist, then those paintings oftentimes, really honestly, they don't come out that good. I sell my art in galleries, and like those paintings that I painted when I was not in a good mood, they typically don't sell in the art gallery. Museums that I've been in are like, oh, that's nice, but no, we don't really want it here. Like, that's happened to me a lot, actually. So try to be in good spirits when you're doing this. Don't get down on yourself. Just let it happen. Let it be what it is. And then now, since we're really working super fast here, I'm pretty much done. If you wanted to, you could come back. I'm really liking this transparency over here, but there's a couple little spots I didn't get any. Come back over. Maybe we could add some white paint or some blue paint in different places. Like maybe let's add a touch of blue right here and kind of get that in there a little bit. Remember not to mix too much. I'm not really scraping so much as I'm pressing, and I'm moving around in different ways. I'm trying to be extremely sporadic with what I'm doing. The more sporadic, the better. There we go. And it does kind of cake on the paint. I do notice that's what I'm doing a little bit. So it's going to take a little bit of time to dry. Make sure I got all my little places on the canvas covered. I'm liking it. I think it's good. When you're pretty happy with what you got, take a moment and turn it around and look at it from different angles. And then also what I want you to do is stand up and look at it from across the room. And if you like what you see, then you're done. If you don't like what you see, then take a moment and fix it. But remember, sporadic. The more randomness you put in there, the cooler it's gonna look. It's just gonna be awesome. We want random. Okay, I think that's about good. I like it. You can see it from this angle. This looks like I got a curvy line. You could scrape if you wanted to, but if you scrape, I strongly recommend that you scrape the same scrapiness throughout the whole piece. If you got some areas that are scrapey and not others, then it breaks it up, which is cool, and you totally want to break it up. But I feel that It won't look like it's the same type of sky. Yeah, that is cool. I'm loving it. It kind of looks like some clouds up here. Okay, so now put the paint off to the side. I'm gonna take a moment here and wipe off my my knife. I like to keep these clean as I go, just cause, you know. I always like to, if you take care of your supplies, then in the long run you spend less money. I mean, these are little cheapy deals, right, too. I bought them, this one's a little cheapy thing that came in a pack of a whole bunch of them for really cheap. Oh my goodness, I just now realized I didn't put any water in my pitcher. Party foul. Total party foul. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side. Now, once we get to this phase and you really like what you see, we're going to need to let it dry, and I strongly, strongly recommend allow this to dry as much as possible, all the way completely, because then you're going to have an easier time when you're going in and painting the gnome. One thing we can do is we can do the handy dandy hair dryer. I'm going to take just about 2-3 minutes here, and I'm going to do the hair dryer. So take your time. Don't stress or anything, and you could always fast forward this part, or you know, take your time. Don't worry that you have to be on my pace, because you don't. right, so you're going to notice your paint is going to be completely dry when it's not shiny. I can see some shiny spots over here. I got a couple here. I noticed some cracking in my paint, which is due because I had the high heat on and it got really hot and dry really quick, so it cracked, but that's totally cool. I like that. It gives it character. The more character, the better. Okay, so now remember what I said earlier. We have a circle, we have a rectangle, and then we have the 3-leaf clover with the curvy line. So if at this point, if you went ahead and just painted over all of your canvas, what I want you to do after it is completely all the way dry as you can possibly get it, I want you to paint out a circle of white, a rectangle, and then I want you to first paint 3 hearts right here with a line. So what I want you to do is paint them in white only, because we're going to put color on top of that. This is just a primer, so that way these colors are going to pop and be bright and very showy. So if you feel that maybe you've gone like right here, I've gone a little bit into my hat, and like I kind of went into my hat here a little bit too, and right there, go ahead with some white paint and cover and really get that a defined pretty line. Now on mine, I'm just going to tough it out, honestly. I'm just going to let it be. My style is not realism. I am more of an impressionistic artist. So like, for example, Van Gogh is an impressionistic artist. So I'm just kind of going to go with it. I'm not really trying to make what does it look like. I'm trying to make what does I feel, that I think, that it seems like it should look like. That's the difference between realism. Realism is when you're trying to be a photograph. I don't want to be a photograph. I want to be fun and youthful. So I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to paint mine because I kind of kept within my line. So this is a heart, a heart, a heart, a curvy line, a rectangle that has rounded edges. It doesn't have to have rounded edges, but it's more cartoony if it does. And then it's a circle. Okay, now on this circle, there's a foot here, a hand, and foot, and then the arm. So they do kind of stick out. So it's not a perfect circle, but don't worry, we're going to work on it. It'll be fine. Now, for the next step, I prefer to have it where I work from the things that are back far away and then work to things that are closer to me. So we did the background with the sky. It's looking great. Try not to accidentally touch it if it's still wet. So I'm going to use a paper plate. I prefer paper plates, especially over styrofoam. They biodegrade a lot faster. And when you're done with your painting, you can just kind of throw it away. Or like I have fires in my backyard often, so I usually kind of use this for kindling. So, but the fumes are really bad, honestly. So like, don't be all trying to huff paint. Don't do that. But with the little bits amounts that I put on here, and I live in the woods here, and I live kind of on a hill, so it's very windy, so fumes won't kill me. Okay, so I'm going to use, I think you don't have to go with this next step to be in the order that I'm doing it, but I think this is the best way to go about doing it. So I'm going to do the beard. And by doing the beard is really going to help me also for where everything else goes too, because the beard is pretty much the inside of the circle. Now there is a hand here, but I'm going to show you how to outline it so we don't get in there. Okay, so I'm going to go with different browns. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exactly the browns I'm using. Just aim for a light, a medium, a dark. I'm pretty much using the end of my paint here. I have some like gold, bronzy yellow stuff, and the only reason I'm adding this is because I have just a little bit of this left, and I kind of want to get rid of it. And I don't like wasting paint. I want to use paint where I use it. So, okay, so I have that, those two browns. Oh, I have a dark brown over here. I'm using, these all look like they're different jars. They are. But excuse me when that's silly, that was so funny. But they're all acrylic. Just make sure that you're staying in the family of acrylic. And these brands, I'm using 3 different brands right now, but they're all roughly the same thickness of type of paint. Okay, so now I have my square. Do you see that? Check it out. See, it's a square. It's got a flat edge right there. I like this brush, kind of skinny. This is called a square. And this one would be considered a medium size for this size canvas. You can go by numbers and everything. Every company has different numbers, but honestly, big, medium, and small. For this size of canvas, this would look like a medium. This would, you know, so just go with a square one. You could go with a round one. A round one's cool too. Round or square, honestly, the look will change slightly. Okay, so I'm going to start with some dark, and I want to show you the outside edges. So take a moment here. Watch what I do for a minute before you start painting, and I want you to see so that way you can know what's going on here. I'm going to do the outline edges here. Now I am keeping these, look at how I'm doing these lines. I'm doing these lines as to tell you the path I'm going in, but I'm not going to paint them sideways because I want it to look like hair, and I want it to look like the hair is originating out of his face. So that's why I'm doing these little hash marks here, just so you can see the outline of where this is going. I want to keep it in the direction of his face, the way the hair grows. And there, this is what we're aiming for. So it almost looks like a mitten. Do you see that? It's almost as if I did lines all the way around like a mitten. So it kind of comes in here because he's going to have a hand and he's going to have an arm. So there we go. So that's the outline, just like a mitten. If you put your hand down and then go around it and get those lines. So now once I have the basic idea of where it's gonna go, now I'm gonna start filling it in. I'm gonna continue, I'm gonna go skinny. So I'm not gonna have my brush like this flat. I'm gonna turn it and go the skinny way with the brush. And I'm just going to make wavy lines. Wavy, wavy lines. And remember, they want to go away from the nose. Oh, you know what? We had mitten, right? We had mitten. There's a nose here, okay? So I'm going to do the outline of this nose right now. Do you see this? He's got an oval nose. So oval. So first we want to make a mitten. Make the mitten first, but don't connect it. Make the mitten. Do not connect it where the ring finger goes. Leave that opened. So make the mitten once you got the outline. And then after you have the outline, do a little crescent right here at the top. And don't paint there because that's where the nose goes. Now you theoretically could just paint all of this brown. And if you do that, then when you're done, you would want to then go back over with some white paint to lighten it back up. Because I'm going to choose to put a peachy type color. I think the peach skin will, it will be it will be way more vibrant up against the really dark beard. You can give him whatever skin color you want. Also, leprechauns come from, well, you know, actually, I heard there's some in Russia, they believe in leprechauns just as they do in Ireland. Their leprechauns are a little tad bit different, but they're kind of the same. They're more like gnomes, which is pretty much the same exact thing, honestly. But these places, the people, the inhabitants tend to be a light skin tone. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give him a light skin tone just because. But it can be, you know, I mean, you could make him purple. I've totally done that. I've made like fun stuff, different colors. But right now I'm doing wavy lines and I have my brush really skinny. And I'm not covering in all the space, and I'm not really putting a lot of effort into thinking where are these wavy lines going. I'm just allowing these wavy lines to just kind of happen as they happen. Okay, so I have a general covering of them. Without washing my brush, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go into my gold that I have that's like a brown. Honestly, as long as you have 3 different shades of brown, you should be cool. Just try to go for a light one, a dark one, and a medium one. Try to make these wavy. I mean, they also could be straight, but I think wavy just gives a little bit of character to it. You could make his little beard red because in Ireland, the red hair was very prevalent there. That could be cool. You could put some red highlighty tints into the brown, and that could be cool too. Have fun with it. Relax and take your time and enjoy this moment. I mean, I don't know about you, but right now, I'm not watching the kid. I don't have to cook anything, clean anything. I mean, I own my own business. It's not like I have a boss yelling at me, but I mean, this is my happy time of the day. It really is, to just zone out and have a good time. So I want you to zone out with me and to just relax. Drink some wine, have a beer, eat some candy, drink a soda. When was the last time you had a soda, huh? I go through moments in my life where I don't let myself drink a whole lot of soda and I replace it with water instead. Yeah, take a moment and relax right now. This is like having a mental vacation. That's what I'm totally doing. I'm on a mental vacation right now. Now, I am kind of purposely trying to put these where I see white canvas. I don't want to cover up at this point because I still have another color to do. I don't want to cover up all of the white, but most of it. It's okay if the paint overlaps a little bit. That's fine. But I am trying to keep in mind of the way in which the hair does grow, that it's coming out of the face and it's like this little oval nose that we made here, it's just like shooting down. Like all these little strands of hair. Some places, if you add a lot of paint onto your brush, you might notice that it kind of makes little lines where the paint sort of gathers a little bit. That's totally cool. Let that happen if it happens. Don't over blend. Yeah, no blending. We don't want any blending happening right now. We want curvy little lines happening. Okay, so now that I got that, I'm going to go into what would be my medium tone, which it doesn't matter. If you're, I started with dark. I usually start with dark and go light, but I mean, it's either or, honestly. So don't freak out. Like, I might probably sometimes also, like, since I started with dark, like sometimes I'll like to go back in after I've added the highlight and just add some more shadows and back and forth until I get a nice look that I like. And I think honestly that's how I'm going to do this. So just pick a brown. The more shades of brown, the cooler this painting is going to look. You could use more shades than 3 if you wanted to. That would be totally cool. Just make sure that you can we really want to see these, you know, we want to see the different colors. That's very important here, that we're seeing lots of different colors. And over here on this edge, I am letting the hairs come out just ever so slightly so that they kind of just a little bit onto the blue, not so much. I just want to make sure that I cover up all that white space and really make it look like they're strands of hair that are poking out. Which maybe we should have, hindsight, maybe we should have done the feet first, because this hair is going to be a little over, well actually no, never mind, scratch that. Because the feet come out, they protrude farther out than the hair would. So we're fine. Just try to get as close to that little line as you can. Remember how I said it's an oval, and now we need to think about edges of the oval. So what we had, the glove, remember the glove? Now this is going to kind of indent here just ever so slightly because there's a foot here and there's also a foot here too. So check this out here. I'm going to show you. right there. Now, can you see it a little bit better now? How that mitten is kind of, it comes down over here where the bottom of our thumb would have been. And then there's like little ovals that have been squished right here. They're not really circular. They're squishy ovals that are kind of ploppy. Yep, very ploppy ovals. Okay, hands, arm. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try really hard to not blend anything at all. And I'm going to deliberately go and plug up all the white areas that I see. And my brush is, look at this. My brush has never been like this square. My brush is always skinny, the skinny way, not the fat, long way. You could do the fat, long way, but if you did, you wouldn't have as many little lines and little hairs going on. Having the brush and the skinny angle going down just gives you a little more hairs. Now he's coming together so cute. This was quite a popular painting. I didn't think it would be as popular as it was, and makes me, I've been listening to what you guys have been telling me and about ideas, and I had a lady give me an idea of a leprechaun. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll figure it out. And wow, it just totally exploded. So thank you so much. Thank you for patronizing. Like, thank you for coming along on this art journey with me. I'm really glad you're here. And I mean, I hate painting alone, and I like it when I have my friends. So I'm really happy you're here with me. Oh, and when you're done, if you would like to, I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you would like to, I would love, love, love to see how your painting turns out. And, you know, if it doesn't happen the first time, don't worry, that's okay. Sometimes I paint things over and over again until I get one that I really like. It happens. But when you're happy with your painting and you feel that you're complete and you're done with it, please send me a picture. I have a place on the website where we share, everybody in the group shares their paintings. It's called Confetti. So go check that out and please post it there because I'm always checking it. It's I wrote code, and it's a social media network, and so it's pretty much everything that Facebook, Twitter, all those places, they do that, what they do, it's pretty much identical. You can share videos and like photos and memes and all stuff, and I made it the code so that way nobody has to worry about followers. It's a pretty cool method here. So, you know, everybody will see it that's on the platform, so there's no way to make it super private. If you didn't want to show it in public and you just wanted to show it to me only, send me a private message, like an email, or I am on all the other social media platforms, so send me a private message if you don't want to put it all public. But I would love to see it, and I always like showing off everybody's art. I mean, how cool, huh? Yeah. So please share. Okay, so for mine, I'm pretty happy at this moment with my beard. There is a thing a science that says sometimes we overwork our art, and sometimes you got to know when the healthy place is to stop, because then you overwork it, and when you do, it's not that good. But sometimes you don't work it enough, and then that really sucks too, and right? So it's finding that happy medium. And I'm going to say for me, the happy medium is when I no longer see white spaces that would be inside of where my little hairs are. Okay, so I need to wash my brush. And before I started painting, I forgot to get myself some water in my handy dandy pitchers. So I'm going to go ahead and run like 2 seconds here. It's literally like sinks right there. I'm going to put in some water. I'll be right back in 3 seconds. Take your time with this. Also, when you are completely done with your beard, I would recommend to allow it to dry fully. So use the hair dryer and and then work on the outside too, because we want that outside edge to be super dry before we start painting, so that way the blue won't blend in with the green and make the green really dark. I'd rather do that with the brush versus having the paint blend itself. So go ahead and dry it as much as possible. Oh, and also, if you'd like to turn on some music in the background, go ahead and do that. The only reason I don't add music onto the video for my classes is because I have people from all over the world that take my classes, and everybody likes different genres of music. So I didn't want to have to force you to listen to music you didn't want to. So go ahead, turn on some music, have a good time, drink your glass of wine, eat a piece of chocolate. I'm back. Okay, so I got myself 2 pitchers of water, so that way I can have extra water to make sure that my brushes are absolutely as clean as I can possibly give them. I like to have one of my pitchers to be, for example, this one, to be, since it's the bigger of the 2. This is my dirty water pitcher. So I clean the brush in this first, and then you know, run the bristles ever so slightly, let it dry. And then I come back into this one with fresh, cleaner water and do a second rinse in the second one. Now that's being over exaggerated. I understand, I know. But it's, you know, it's kind of nice to have an extra clean on your brush. So that way you can really fully make sure that you get out the pigment that you don't want for your next, the next paint you're going to use. So I strongly recommend doing a double clean with 2 different waters. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick moment here, use my handy dandy hair dryer, and I'm going to try to dry this painting as much as possible. I recommend that at this time you do the same thing. If you're not done and you're still painting, go ahead, pause the video. There's no need to rush. is a tad bit shiny, but for the most part, the blue and the white seems to be pretty dry. I mostly just see shinies where I globbed a lot of paint here and I see some here. So I need to be very careful that I don't accidentally put my hand down or anything on it and smudge the paint. Okay, so now I feel that the next step would be to go and do the green. So I'm gonna go ahead and open. And notice how I only take out paint as I need it. This is on purpose. It really is on purpose. I'm working with acrylic paints and they dry really quickly. And so by only taking out what I need as I need it and keeping my things closed all the way, it helps keep the paint moisture longer. If you need something, an additive to put into your paint, I have some stuff on the website. Go check it out. Type into the search bar supplies. I have it. You can also find it at the top of the website there on the menu. I have supplies, and it'll open up a page on the website where it shows different products I use. So check that out if you see. These are what I recommend. Honestly, I tried a lot of different products out there, and these are, I think they're the good stuff. Okay, so anyways, so I don't have to spend extra money and put additives to my paint. I'm just taking out the paint as I need it. I got a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow because I'm going to make a lighter green. Now, I'm going to first start with the dark green. Now, let's see. Let's make this easy on us and let's do the hat first. So remember how I said he's got a rectangle here. So if you haven't pre-drawn that, that's okay. Don't worry. I'm going to figure this out for you right here. So take a moment. Watch what I do before you start painting. So that way you see what we got going on. Okay, so I'm going to make a little curvy line, and that's going to be the brim of his hat. So I'm just going to take a moment, and I'm leaving a space here because that's going to be the stem. But anyways, I'm making this little curvy line, and it's going to come this way. So I'm pretty much outlining my hat. I am using my brush in the fat way instead of the skinny way. And notice how I'm pressing down, and I am using a square brush for this. You can use a round brush if you want. The look would be slightly different because you'd be applying with a round instead of a flat square edge. And then I'm going to swoop up a little bit to the right because I want to give his brim, he's cartoony. I want to keep him cartoony. So I want the brim of his hat to be around. So go ahead and make this line right here. Once you've made that line, and don't worry if I'm going fast, you could always pause the video. Once you've made your little curvy line like that, we're going to go ahead and make it just a little bit fatter and thicker. And remember, the edge here, I'm going to keep mine rounded. If you go off into the blue a little bit, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I do want to be mindful that I don't paint right here that there's going to be a stem coming down, so I'm going to give a little bit of space for that, just cause. And my paint is rather thick because this is I've had this paint for a while, and even though I've had the jar closed, it's still kind of dried a little bit, and so I'm just going to use that to my advantage here, and I'm going to make little marks and allow there to be bubbly spaces of paint. So like some areas it's kind of going to bulge out of the paintbrush ever so slightly. Others it's going to be pressed by the bristles and swiped as it's put on. So it gives it character, it gives it movement. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of cake mine on and just give it a look of wowness. So I'm going to, on this side of the hat, make it just ever so slightly, just a little bit bigger, because it's kind of like he's turned a little bit. And by having the right, okay, we're talking a little bit bigger on the right side than we want on the left side, just ever so slightly. And it just gives him a little personality that his body is turned ever so slightly. if we made both the right and the left exactly the same size, then that would mean that he was looking straight on, head on to us, which is, yeah, but I still want a little bit of a turn there. So making this side a little bit bigger is how I'm going to achieve that turn. So make it look a little bit more 3D. Okay, so now that I have his little brim going on, he's going to have a buckle. Now I'm going to not paint in the buckle quite at this moment. I'm going to skip that part and come back to it. So now what we want to do is a rectangle. Now I think it looks cute rounded because it's all cartoony. Pointy would be less cartoony, more of a realism look. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a rectangle. But watch, before you do the rectangle, watch how I do it. I'm going to do the edge and I'm going to come here. Now the buckle, I want it to protrude ever so slightly up. So see what I did? I kind of interrupted my line there so that way I can account for the buckle. And then I'm going to come back around and finish that line. And it's a little curvy, ever so slightly curved, just a little bit. Now I'm going to do the other edges of the hat. I'm going to keep my brush sideways. Remember how when I went around the edges, I didn't want to do a straight line. I wanted to keep the path on the way that the brush strokes were going. So that's why I kind of scaled that up there like that, but basically it's a rectangle. Have a little bit of blue kind of protruded here, so I'm going to probably have to make that a little thick to cover up some of the blue. And now I'm going to do that step pattern again, and I'm going to come back. Oops. I accidentally went too far into the blue. If you go too far in the blue, hurry up and wipe it off really quick before it has a chance to dry. And then you'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm going to step back down, completing that rectangle. There we go. So now I still have those brush strokes where they're kind of sideways. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill it in using little sideways brush strokes. Now because I'm using a square brush, that's why I'm getting these lines. If you use a round brush, you can still do this method. You won't have the lines exactly like how I'm having these vertical lines that are naturally appearing. You would have more of a rounded edge, and this is giving me some vertical and a little bit of horizontal lines. And I'm not overworking it. My main goal here is to do stepping little strokes sideways and getting those little bulginess of the paint and the lines to happen naturally. Where you add the paint, you press it, and the paint gets squished onto the side of the bristles, and then it comes out, and then when you lift up the paintbrush and you see that you have some like little lines that have been left over by the paint because it was squished from the bristles. That's the goal for me. Little patchworky quilt idea. This is also a good method if you were painting wicker baskets. This will really look cool in brown, especially if you use different colors of brown, little different shades. And if I see some areas that maybe could have had a little bit more going on, then I fix it. But for the most part, less is more. Don't try to touch things up too much. Just let it happen. Let it naturally be what it is and what it wants to be. Let it just flow. There we go. I'm liking it. He's coming together. You're doing a good job. Okay. So there's his hat. You know, with the buckle, I do want to give, we could go straight black. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. I was going to go ahead and do some funky stuff with it, but I feel like there's so much going on with the background and the beard that I'm just going to let it be. Okay, so now we have green. Now I did say yellow, but now that I'm looking at my painting, I kind of like my hat. I think my hat's pretty cool. So I'm not going to put any yellow in my hat. You can if you want. I mean, I don't want your painting to look exactly like mine because we're all individuals and I want to see how cool and awesome you are. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the yellow in the clothing. So that way the clothing kind of stands out from the hat ever so slightly. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take some green, and I'm going to come in here on the side of my yellow. I think I might have added too much on my palette. And I'm going to lighten up the green, adding a little bit of yellow at a time. Now this is going to start making a lighter greeny yellow, and that's cool. Just incorporate the yellow a little bit at a time until you get a light green that you're really happy with. A little bit at a time. The more yellow you add, the lighter your green is going to get. Now make sure that you have your green so it definitely looks like a different shade of green from the other green you had before. Want it to be very noticeably different. All right, that's looking good. I like that. That's good. That's enough green right there. Don't need a whole lot. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the arms. So he's got an arm on each side. This one is kind of behind the beard ever so slightly. So I'm going to come over here, which kind of breaks my rule of backwards and forwards. I mean, technically, in this moment here, we should do the hand, the arm, the beard, and then the hat. But I already have green in my hand, and it'll be fine. Just be very careful with your angles here. So watch what I'm doing. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to go the skinny way just to help me with a little outline here. And I'm going to come around. And I'm making a square that has, I'm making an oval that is so rounded, a rectangle so rounded that it's not even a rectangle anymore. It's an oval that has been super squished. I'm going to come in here with this light green color. And I'm going to kind of come up under the hat just ever so slightly. So it's an oval that has a little arm that's sticking out over here. And I'm going to go ahead and put some texture in my paint. Remember how I said about squishing off that paint and letting these little natural things occur with how the paint is. You get a bristle, so it applies the paint, but the bristles kind of push it off to the side and it leaves these nice little marks. There. So that's the arm. I'm liking it. It's kind of back off to the side just ever so slightly. Now for his other arm, this is a little tricky. Bear with me. Okay, you can do this. I'm going to do the exact same thing over here, what I did over here. Same thing. It's going to be maybe a slightly little bit bigger because this one we're seeing the arm where it's kind of back behind, going behind his body, where this one is going in front of the body. So this is a minimal. Remember how we made this side of the hat just ever so slightly larger than, fatter than this side? We're going to do the opposite. This one's a little bit fatter than that one. So I'm going to show you the outline here. And we have the hand. So there's really no way to describe it other than let's do the letter C. And then I'm going to do another C to make a crescent moon. So I got a little moon. But instead of it coming to a point, it's going to follow underneath the hat. I'm going to fill it in. Take a moment, fill it in. And then it kind of, there is the stem. I want to think about where this stem goes. So I'm going to come over here and continue that back part of the moon. It's going to come up and around ever so slightly. So this is almost like a triangle on this side. And then I'm just going to fill it in over here, just a little bit on the left here. So it's a moon on the bottom and it comes out to a flat line. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and fill it in and get the little paint, working with a lot of different little brush strokes in there. Fill it in, take your time. Less is more. Add a little bit at a time. There we go. I'm painting with my brush so it's doing the skinny side. There. So that's his arm. So it starts up here, Comes down ever so slightly. Like if you see just this space only is a triangle right here. Triangle. And then this is a moon that has a flattened square edge to it. Okay, so that's cool. I like it. It's looking good. Pretty happy with it. So I'm going to show you really quick. Oh, you know what? I was going to clean my brush, but we haven't done the 3-leaf clover. You can make this a 4-leaf clover if you want to. Totally cool. If you want to change your design to a 4-leaf clover, all you have to do is color in the hearts. So 1 heart, 2 heart, 3 heart, and then 4 heart, and just make hearts and then color it in with white paint if you have already painted over blue and you want to change the look. Like if you're not liking the shape of it, just paint over what you have with straight white. Do the outline of the hearts where they come together at the point and let that dry all the way. And then when it's completely dry all the way and you like your layout that you have, then we can go on to this next step. I'm pretty happy with mine. I think mine's pretty cool. So I don't need to wash my brush. I'm still in the hues of green. I'm going to be mixing a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with some dark paint. And those hearts that I have, I'm going to continue. So I'm going to do the outline. I'm going to only work on one at a time. And I'm making a heart and then inside a little heart. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for brush strokes. I'm going for brush strokes. Right there. Liking what I got. Okay, so I'm going to move on with the bigger color. I'm going to do the outside of the heart. And then I'm going to do the other side of the outside of the heart. I've got my brush kind of the fat direction. It honestly doesn't matter. Just press it. But whatever you do, if you're going skinny way, stay your brush the skinny way. If you're going the fat way, stay your brush the fat way. Keep some continuity. I like it. I think it's doing good. Always fix it again. But if you fix it, make sure that you're working on the outside edge first, and then you come back over to the inside after you've done the outside, so that way you can really get a good look going with the hardiness of it. I'm going to turn this just a little bit to make it a little easier on me. If it's easier for you, go ahead and turn your painting. Be comfortable. I'm liking this. I'm going to flick out some paint from the center, and I got my brush going the skinny way, and I'm flicking from the bottom point of the heart up to the fat area of the heart, and this is going to look like some veins going on. Don't do this unless you feel very confident in your skill with painting. So here's a close-up view of how I flicked it. Do you see what I did? I was in the inside area of the heart, and I pressed and flicked up to go up and out. Okay, so now when I have my hearts the way I like, when you're ready with your hearts and you're like, you got them, you feel like they're good, let's go again. Put quite a bit of paint on your brush, and in a skinny, not fat way, Start here, and remember, it's curvy into the hand. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to push down. And I kind of want to do this all at once. And there she goes. You could do it a second time. I feel like I needed more paint, so I'm going to come up here. Try to get it all in one motion. And there you have it, one motion. The reason why one motion is because here's a close-up. Look at my stem. Do you see how the paint got kind of pushed out to both sides of the stem? I applied the paint and then the bristles pushed out the paint as it was being applied. So it was applying plus removing paint and then pushing it out to both sides. Therefore, now I have two dark edges on both sides of my stem. Okay. So, it's pretty good. You're doing good. Let's see. So now let's work on the feet. I want to take a quick second here and show you how I recommend to wash a brush. I know you've taken my classes before, but just bear with me. Okay, so I got my my paper towel. I'm going to press my paint, press my bristles slightly, and then I'm going to push away. Don't push in towards, push away. Get rid of the excess paint that you have on your brush. Take that aside. Go into your dirty water, which for me is my bigger pitcher that I'm using. I prefer the pitcher because look, I can hold it. I mean, I like how it has a handle. It's got a little bendy part up here. Put my brush in there. Move it around. Do not press too hard with your bristles, just ever so slightly on the bottom. Back and forth, different directions, up and down, sideways, for, you know, okay. So I still have paint on my brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the bristles, let some of that paint drip back down in there. I noticed some of my paint has gotten on my ferrule. This part of the brush right here is called the ferrule. So what I'm going to do is take my paper towel, and I'm going to wipe the ferrule and try to get that paint off of the ferrule. The ferrule is the thing that binds the bristles together. So I already had a wash, it's pretty good. But I'm going to go ahead and do a second wash, because if I go into like a yellow right now, I still have a little bit of residue from my green. And so that is going to tint my yellow a little bit, and I wouldn't want that to happen because if I just want only yellow. So I'm going to go ahead with a second rinse, do the exact same thing. I like it has a handle. Back and forth. Remember, don't go up and down. Do not do this, okay? None of this. We want sideways motions, forward and sideways. Then I come up here and I bend it ever so slightly to get some of the water out. Don't bend too hard. Don't kill your bristles. And then I'm going to come in here with my paper towel, and I'm going to do a test. And I'm going to start on the left and pull to the right, which is pulling away that the bristles want to go, because if I push in, I'll destroy the bristles. So I want to push out. So I'm going to test it with a slight bend and see if any color comes up. If color does come up, I'm going to go back into my fresh clean water, my second rinse it again. I'm going to turn the bristle the other way, do it both sides. Nope, no paint comes out. This is completely dry and ready to go. Okay. So I thought the paint would be dry by now, but it is not. Let's go ahead and take a little break right now, and I'm going to take a moment and use my hair dryer. If you have one, go ahead, speed up the process. If not, take a break from painting for a moment. Allow your paint to dry, and yeah, we're going to take a break. doing? Having fun? I'm having fun. So now let's go ahead and do the shoes and the buckle and the hands. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the executive decision to do the buckle because I already have some yellow out and I want to keep it from drying. I have my little liner brush that I feel is going to work really well with this. I recommend a liner brush. It's basically your smallest, skinniest brush. Now mine, here's a close-up. Look at the bristles. Okay, hold on, right there. Do you see the bristles? They're kind of frayed and the whole thing's dry. So I want them to be a nice pretty point. So I'm going to dip them into my water, get the water out, and these bristles are going to come together and be a nice pretty little point. Now the more you use the liner brush, the less pretty pointish you're going to have with it. But yeah, I need detail right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with my yellow over here, away from my green. Make sure only yellow, okay? Don't mix any green in there. Nice little coating. And I'm going to come over here and do a square. Now, I'm going to get mine to be super squarey. But if you do your buckle and it's not a perfect square and it's got character going on, that's going to be even cooler. He's going to look more cartoony a little bit. So like if it's not a perfect square, I'm going to keep the middle of my square without paint. I could paint over it. There's really honestly no need because I'm going to put black there. If you want to, just go ahead and fill in the middle. But I think this is fine for me. A little brush makes it so I don't have to. It's good to practice with a liner brush too. And if you don't feel confident with a liner brush, I strongly recommend practicing on paper with the liner brush a little bit. Make lines and shapes and stuff, and then when you're confident, then go ahead and paint the buckle in. But yellow is a really forgiving color in that it's not like whoops and then it's a whole thing of many layers to have to cover it. Like if you did this with like a black and you didn't do it just right, it's going to take you a lot of layers over and over again to cover the black, so then you can then put the yellow paint on. So don't stress out too much with the yellow. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and wash my brush here really quick. All right. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna switch back into my little square. It was, yeah, my little square. Kind of just a small square, honestly. I do feel that if you use a square over a round right now, you're going to get sharper edges. Ow. Ah. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit of black. Don't need a whole lot. Black goes a long ways. I mean, my little jars of black last me for like ever. So we're going to do the buckle and we're going to do the shoes. I'm going to do the shoes first. Solely because to allow the yellow buckle to dry a little bit. When the black covers over yellow, it's really going to cover very thickly, so it's not that big of an issue right now. You know what? I'm thinking right now would be better if you wanted to switch to a round brush, but I'm being lazy, so I'm going to stick with my square. I'm just going to have to be very careful that I get their edges round. So it's a circle, but watch what I do. Before you paint, check this out for a minute. I'm doing an oval that has been pinched on one side. Take your time with it. Remember to breathe. Now see how it was rounded on that side? I'm going to come over here and it gets pinched down at the bottom. And notice too, the bottom of this oval, okay, the top, this side is rounded and big hump, but then down here it kind of goes flat because that's the bottom of his shoe. So This part has been an oval been flattened right here, and it comes to a point. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now with this one though, this is more like an oval that has turned a little bit into a triangle, but it's still ovally. So remember, okay, so this part we want it to be a pinch. So we want them to look the same, but by giving the right and the left side a little bit of a dimension, what's going to happen is it's going to make it, it gives it character. So the bottom of his shoe is flat over here and it's rounded. So see how it was an oval, but it's trying to be more of a triangle. And that's the shoe. All right. Now, as far as, remember with the hat, we put a lot of indentation of what's going on. When you paint with black, it kind of just dries. Well, you don't really see it as much. Like you see it over here when we did the sleeves and we did the marks over here on the plant to have the paint, how we pushed the paint the way we did. The black is just so dark that really, even from a distance, you're really not going to see all those brush strokes. It doesn't, you won't get a lighter black and then a darker black, just like when we did with the lighter green and the darker green, even though it was the same pigment. So don't worry about that for the shoes. You could add some grays in there and all that, but that's a whole story for another day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and work on the buckle and the strap that goes around his hat. So it's pretty much a rectangle. Try to keep the thickness so that it's the same. Be also careful when you're going over, so you don't go over the green too much, because then, you know, to cover up the black and to fix it, you're gonna have to paint a lot of white or a lot of green, many layers over and over and over again to cover up that black. So be very careful you don't go over into the green. So I'm going to turn this to make it easier on me to paint for a second here. Be careful you don't put your hand down onto any place of your canvas where it's wet. Ooh, looking cute! Looking cute! And you know, it's good to turn your canvas from time to time to see it from different angles. Okay, so in the middle of this buckle, I'm going to be very careful, and the square brush is going to help me a lot with this one right now to get those sharp edges. I did one side, then I'm going to turn my canvas, and then I'm going to do the other side so I'm not straining my hand. I really want to make sure that I get straight lines and edges here. Yeah, and there you have it. I love it. Ooh, it's looking good. Okay, I see a tiny bit of white here that I'm going to cover. Right there. Okay. Now be super careful that it's wet, because you don't want to accidentally whoops and then get it all over the canvas, you know, so don't touch the paint. Be mindful. I know it sounds silly and redundant, but there's so many times where I was in a rush and I accidentally set my hand down on wet paint, and you don't want to get the black all over the place. So take a moment, wash your brush. We're not going to use black again, so go ahead and really clean out your brush. I like to clean my brushes quite frequently, and I take good care of mine. They last longer. I'm not trying to be like a penny pincher, but I am doing this for a business. I paint about 2 to 3 paintings a day. And so, and you know, it's my business. So I'm trying to be mindful. I don't want to have to like spend 10 bucks on brushes for each and every painting. So take care of your stuff. Make it last. Don't let paint dry on your brushes. And also, I recommend not allowing your brushes to sit in your paint water, because then they get cakey and then they also kind of dry and they get gummy. So when you're done with the color and that's it, and you ain't going to use that brush anymore for the rest of the painting, just take a moment and wash it. Okay, so we've got that. Now the last step for us is to do the hands. Yep. Now the hand is touching the black and this paint is really wet. And to make things easier on myself so I don't have to go fixing any boo-boos, I'm going to use the hairdryer and make sure that I dry all this, because if I have the wet paint and then I put other wet paint, especially the lighter color with the skin tone, then they might blend together. I run that risk, and then it's going to be a whole thing and I'll have to fix it. So let's take a little break right now and dry our paintings. Looking good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to make the skin color. Now you can use, like, if you have extra color, but I already have these browns here. So in the event that you don't have any, let me show you how to make a really easy, fast, to the point skin color. Okay, so I'm gonna take this guy, my lightest brown. This guy's got some gold in it, so I'm not gonna choose to use that one. Take the light brown. Oh, into the end of my white over here. I'm gonna add some white. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the smallest touch. So it's 1 part white to 1 part brown to 1/4 part red. The smallest, littlest amount of red as possible, because that's going to give him a rosy tone. So I'm going to go ahead with my small brush and I'm going to mix those colors together. So light brown, white, and a little tint of pink. He's going to go kind of peachy. If you just add white and don't add any red, what it'll happen is you'll just have a really light brown, which could also be cool. You know, I mean, there's so many shades within the skin tone colors. And we just mix it until we get something we like. So 1 part white to 1 part light brown to the smallest you can amount of red. So I've been doing this a lot, so I can see how much goo I've used. If you haven't done this before, I recommend adding the smallest amount of red and then incorporating it together. Add a little bit at a time until you get a desired look. I'm happy with what I got. So now his hand here it was a circle, but it's hiding behind a foot and an arm. So I'm going to go over here, and it is a circle on the outside, but then it kind of comes pointy because it's behind his foot. Now, if you don't like your little corners, if you come into this peach and you go into that black a little bit, you let it dry, and then you can fix his foot once it's fully dried. Wait till it fully dries, and then you can fix the line in there. The green, try really hard not to go on the green. If you do, hurry up and wipe it super quickly before it dries, and then just start again. Don't let it dry. You could add a second coat onto the arm if you want, but I want some of that white of the canvas to poke through the clothing a little bit to give that green a little bit of a really bright look to it. So be careful. Okay, so we got that hand. Now let's do the other hand. Now the other hand is kind of like a heart almost. The bottom part of the heart is a little bit bigger, a little bit more bulbousy than the top part. So right now I'm outlining. He's got his little thumb right here. And the bottom part of the heart is rounded. It doesn't come to a point. And then I'm going to fill it in. There you go. Now this is a lighter color, so you kind of will see some of those brush strokes. So I'm going to be mindful of that with the way and the direction that I'm moving my brush, because when it dries, I want to see some of them brush strokes. Now he's got a little thumb. You don't have to put the thumb in, but I feel that if you do, it's just going to give it an extra special touch to it. It's going to have an extra look. So I'm going to go, and I have my square brush. And with it, I'm going to go very lightly over here, and he's got his thumb, and it kind of is sticking out. Less is more. Try to make the guy small. His little thumb sticking out, like he's holding on to the thing. I'm going to go over here and just touch up that edge to make sure my brush strokes, because the hand is in front of the thumb. So I want to make sure I got a nice thick line there that's showing with the brush stroke, that's showing that that was in front and that the thumb is behind where the knuckle up here would be. So here's his little hand. So now his nose. Oh, his nose. Try to make his nose the perfectest oval that you can make. I always like to outline things first, and then go, when I'm done with the outline and I like the outline, then go fill in the insides. You have to have patience, remember to breathe. Keep working on it until you got something you like and you're happy. Try not to make an egg, try to make an oval that's the same on the right and same on the left. Now I just did a quick pass right there to show the brush strokes that they go curvy. I'm making little C's that are curvy because when it dries, it'll be cute little brush strokes that are there. And that's pretty much it. Now is the time to look in your painting and see, is there something you missed? Is there something you don't like? Do you want to retouch up something? This is the time to do it. I kind of feel like, yeah, there is some things I can do that I would like to touch up and fix. For example, right here with my little beard, it's not doing so well because, you know, like there's some white peeking through, and I see in the beard there's some areas where the white is peeking through. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my brush here really quick. I have noticed that it's good to also take a moment and stare at your painting, especially at this point. Walk to the other side of the room and look at it. Turn it upside down and look at it. Turn it on the side and look at it and see if it looks good upside down and on the sideways and you're looking at it from across the room, then you're done. And the painting is super awesome. But if when you're on the other side of the room and you're looking at it and you're like, that shape isn't quite right, or maybe I need a little bit more color on this side and not on that side, then go fix it. But don't be a perfectionist with yourself, because I have had students where they're painting a painting for 2 years. You know, at some point you just got to say it's done and move on to the next one, because if you don't move on to your next painting, then you're never going to learn and push yourself, and we really want to grow as artists, right? And we don't want to be stuck on the same painting. So give yourself 2 times. So go look at it right now from the other side of the room. Look at it. If there's something you want to change, go change it. And then give yourself only one more time to look at it. And if you look at it and it's not right, then, you know, you could maybe touch it up, but try not to, okay? The more you keep doing that, you're never going to finish the painting. So 1-2 times max. Okay, so I want to fix the beard, but I noticed here that my black paint is still quite wet, and I don't want the black to mix on the bristles of my brush while I'm fixing the beard. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and I'm going to dry my painting. I recommend that you do the same thing as well. So I'm going to go ahead with my little square brush that I was using before when we did the beard. I'm going to go into my dark brown. Now I mixed my light brown into flesh tone, so I'm going to pretend that's not on there anymore. And I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to use the dark brown, and I'm going to go in here, and on purpose I'm going to try to still make strands. I can't just do little dots here. I still need to make it strandy and long. And I'm going to go ahead and cover up the white areas. Remember, we want strands. And I go here too, every couple so many. And we don't want it to all be brown. We want to see all the different shades of brown. Remember that. So don't be covering up everything. Ah! I accidentally went into the sleeve ever so slightly, but before it dries, I can wipe it off and it's all good. You know what? I need a little bit more clean. I'm taking a tiny brush. I'm going to come in here. I dipped it in a little bit of water and I'm going to wipe that with some water to try to get that brown. There we go. That's another way if you need to erase really quick. But it only works when you adding in a clean brush, adding water to the painting only works if the undercoat where it was already good before you messed it up is completely all the way 100% dry, and if you do it right away really quickly before the other paint has a chance to dry. Otherwise you're gonna ruin messing up your painting. So timing is very important. Just coming in here with some dark brown and filling in some little white areas that I see. Still keeping some white areas because I'm going to go back over. Okay, so I don't have any more of that light brown. I just need ever so small amount. Don't waste, too much came out. Don't waste your paint. I don't need to really wash my brush at this moment. I'm going to go back into this lighter brown here and then try to be sporadic over here. And I'd be careful because the dark brown is still wet. You don't want to have blending. You want streaks, you don't want blending. So then they appear to be like overlapping. Okay, I'm going to come up here and just see if there's any other little areas, or if you find that there is too much of the same color in one little space, you can use these little lines here and break it up. The more you break it up, the better. I'm going to go into a tad bit of gold and add some of my other brown that I had. The goal is to add as many different browns as possible. I want to break up those colors a lot. And I am pressing my brush the skinny way. All right. That seems to be good. I'm pretty happy with that. I like what I got going on here. He's cute. He is really cute. Thanks for painting with me today. I had so much fun doing this. I really did. I got a lot of other cool paintings too if you want to check them out. Other fun stuff we could do together. And if you have any ideas of something that like you want to paint, please send me a message. Let me know, because sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, and I'm not motivated. And yeah, give me some ideas of things that would be fun to paint. Like I was thinking about doing a rainbow. I don't think I have any of those up on the website at the moment. So I think that might be fun. So give me some ideas. Give me some criticism. Let me know what you think about this class and my teaching style. because I'm trying to become a really good teacher, and I can't become a good teacher if I don't have constructive criticism guiding me in a positive manner that I can get to where I need to be. So please let me know if there's anything I should work on, that I should do better with. Let me know how I'm doing. So please leave me a review. And then please also let me see your painting. I want to see how cool and awesome your painting came out. I really do. I want to see what colors you used and how you went about doing it. And please, so send me like on the website or on social media, whichever format is easiest for you to use that one. And then hashtag me in it, so that way I'll be